Hi everyone. Today, let's talk about my market bias. First, I will talk about a little bit of a resurgence of the Rona, which is fighting the narrative of the vaccine. I will talk a little bit more about the specifics of the vaccine and some of the challenges they face in terms of manufacturing 300 million plus doses of the vaccine just for the United States, as well as transporting and keeping all of those vaccines cold to ensure their effectiveness. Then I will go over the technicals for SPY, as well as for the NASDAQ. If you like economic news and making money, definitely like and subscribe. Welcome to the Portfolio Bulletin. Let's get started. So the markets on Wednesday had a little bit of a dip into the close, somewhere around 1%. And they're saying that this is due to the new virus restrictions spreading across the country. They say the average daily cases was up over 150,000 for the past 7 days, which is higher than the initial surge in April. The total death count did cross 250,000, also on Wednesday. Now, investors are faced with the decision on how to balance that and the potential for more lockdowns with the information that Pfizer said that their new vaccine is around 95% effective in preventing the Rona. And they are also going to file for emergency use authorization from the FDA. Even if there is an approval, though, it will still take months to get hundreds of millions of vaccines out to the population. And specifically with Pfizer, it does require 2 doses. So for the US population, we're talking 660 million doses alone. Obviously not accounting for the fact that these vaccines are being requested around the world. They also mention here that the markets have been celebrating since Election Day. The fact that there is a split Congress means that there won't be too many dramatic changes in the marketplace, which generally reduces the fear and volatility, generally leading to rising markets. Getting back to the Rona, however, we must remember that the market is a forward-looking or predictive style of investment, and if it looks like the Rona is going to be a thing of the past due to the vaccine, then the short-term effects of rising rates and potential short-term lockdowns seem to be ignored more and more by the markets. Something that I don't think is being talked about quite enough is the undertaking for getting this vaccine to all of the people, and the potential for this to take at least another quarter, potentially 2 more quarters until we have enough vaccine out in the population to reach some sort of herd immunity. Because remember, not all 300 million plus people need to get the vaccine for it to be effective. If you're getting above 60 to 70%, I think we would see a pretty dramatic downtrend in the number of people testing positive for the Rona. But 60% of the population, again, with 2 doses, you're talking about, 400 million doses or so. There are 2 vaccines out there with the Pfizer vaccine and the Moderna vaccine. And the narrative of the vaccine is currently battling the rising Rona cases and the taxation on the health systems of both Europe and the US. So the question is, will the market price in more future lockdowns, or are they going to stick with the narrative that says the vaccine is going to make this a thing of the past, whether it be 1, 2, or even 3 quarters from now? Starting with the Moderna vaccine, they say it's more than 94% effective, again, consisting of 2 injections 4 weeks apart. So if we need to get to that 60% case, we're talking about around 400 million doses, and physically getting that to all of those people. Of course, some people need it more than others. Healthcare workers and frontline workers will be the first to get it, in my opinion, quickly followed by the most high-risk individuals, those 75 or older or with pre-existing conditions. Pfizer and BioNTech found very similar efficiency rates with their vaccine using an RNA or mRNA technology in order to provoke the immune response. Moderna says that the vaccine will remain stable at 36 to 46 degrees Fahrenheit, basically in a normal refrigerator for up to 30 days, but it can be stored for up to 6 months at -4 degrees. I'm not sure how much that matters because we're going to try to get this out and used as quickly as possible, so 30 days seems reasonable in a normal refrigeration type situation. In terms of cost, Moderna says it will cost $32 to $37 per dose for customers, but they are looking to reduce costs for larger volume agreements, which seems like will be every case, at least for now. They also mentioned that Moderna expects to have 20 million doses ready to ship in the United States by the end of the year, which is in only a month and a half from now. They also say that they're on track to produce 500 million to 1 billion doses in 2021. As I mentioned before, if they can only produce 500 million to 1 billion doses in 2021, that's a little bit more than what we need on the low end to make sure that we have at least a semblance of herd immunity in the United States. And if they plan to push this out to multiple countries, we may see this lasting as long as 2022, which means if we have short-term lockdowns, it could affect company profits in the short term, but it doesn't seem like it will affect long-term future growth, at least of the largest S&P 500 companies. Moderna plans to give at least 100 million of its doses to the United States, 56 million to Canada, 50 million to the UK, and Switzerland ordered 4.5 million, further spreading out where all of these vaccines are going to go. Talking a little bit more about the Pfizer vaccine, it's 2 injections 21 days apart, and the reason we were talking about temperature earlier is the fact that it must stay at minus 94 degrees Fahrenheit during shipment and transportation, which is extremely cold and cannot be managed by simple refrigeration units, and it will only stay at regular refrigeration temperatures for 5 days. The point here is that it makes it very difficult to distribute, especially if you're going to move it from this country to any of the others, aside from Mexico and Canada. Currently, Pfizer is working on a plan to distribute these vaccines, and they're running some tests on current doses of the vaccine since they are not ready for distribution to ensure they have the capability to distribute it once it's possible. They're saying that it will cost around $20 per dose, which will help on the grand scheme of things versus the Moderna vaccine. In terms of agreements, the European Union has agreed to buy 300 million doses, Japan has agreed to 120 million, and the US bought 100 million of these. The UK, Canada, Australia, and Chile have all agreed to at least 10 million doses of this vaccine specifically. The third vaccine that we haven't heard quite as much about from the British pharmaceutical giant AstraZeneca says that they will be ready by the end of the year also, and they are producing similar responses from older and younger adults in terms of their immune response. They are currently producing large volumes of their vaccine, and they plan to put it into individual vials upon final approval. AstraZeneca has received orders from the United States and India for 500 million doses, the EU agreed to 400 million, and the COVAX facility has ordered 300 million. UK, Japan, Indonesia, Brazil, and Latin America have all agreed to 100 million doses, and they say that it will only cost $3 to $4 per dose, which is far cheaper than either of the American vaccines. The point of this long rundown is that these vaccines are not quite ready. It will take quite a lot of time to produce them and get them to all of the people individually, and they require specific shipping temperatures, and they must be dosed a certain number of days apart to ensure effectiveness. And it's a little bit surprising to me that the market is just pricing in the fact that these are going to come and that everything will be great once they are completed and approved. Moving on to the price action for the S&P 500. This is after the close on the 19th. And you can see we had that big uptrend leading to the announcement of the Pfizer vaccine on this day. We did retrace back, filling in the gap, and then uptrended from there. And then we had a little bit of a down day on Wednesday. And then we did have a very small up day on Thursday. And currently you can see these candles are in gray, meaning that we don't have a trend one way or the other. We did break out of this very small wedge situation we had going on here, and we're currently up. We did have a sort of a retap here of the trend line in which we did bounce off, and we haven't come back in to retest that yet. And then we had a small up day. These recent days have been basically what you want to see in terms of being long in the options selling market. Generally flat markets, maybe a little bit of a dip, but not too much. You're letting all of that theta premium come in. And currently from here, I think we're going to grind upwards. As I mentioned, I think we're pricing in the vaccine despite some of the struggle we're going to see from deploying those and the short-term lockdowns that we're seeing in places like New York and California right now going into the holiday season. But I just don't think the markets care at this point. We see a vaccine coming and we're just going to grind up from here. That doesn't mean we're not going to see maybe some down days or some retests of the 100-day moving average or even the 200-day moving averages, which are quite a ways away right now. But obviously I can't predict when those are going to happen. And if they do, I will just adjust my options positions as we go forward, but right now I am a little bit long. Looking at the Qs, it's not quite the same story because we did have a pretty massive bull run in the Qs where the Nasdaq was outperforming the S&P 500. And since then, we've been kind of channeling here, bouncing off the 100-day moving average. And we've definitely established a trend line here, and the markets continue to stay below that level. And I do have an iron condor on the Qs right now, and I think we're going to move sideways at least for the foreseeable future. I did forget to mention that the S&P 500 is seeing a little bit of momentum from including Tesla in the S&P 500, which will probably give it some upward momentum, and that's part of why you're seeing Tesla get a little bit of a jump right now also. But overall, I think the Qs are pretty neutral, selling calls on the highs, and I'm selling puts on the lows. I think we're going to channel at least for a couple more days here until we break out to one direction or the other. One thing I forgot to mention, if you do believe that the vaccine is currently the ruler of the markets and not the short-term lockdowns, one sector worth looking at right now is the REIT markets. Things like Simon Property, Realty Income, and Federal Realty Trust are all seeing some pretty good upward movement right now. And I think they're probably the cheapest sector that's going to see some direct benefits from the vaccine. Comment down below what you think of the REIT markets, the S&Ps, or even the vaccine overall. Do you think the vaccine is the ruler? Or will these short-term lockdowns affect the markets, at least in the short term? Definitely like and subscribe if you got any value out of this video. Of course, this is not financial advice. This is all for entertainment purposes. And have a great day.